Hi everyone, it's Chris and welcome back to another video. Thank you for joining me today. Now recently I posted a video where I shared the songs of my childhood, the records that when I hear them I get taken back to a certain point and time and place in my life. And one of the albums I shared was one of the first albums, or was the first album I ever bought by this band, Led Zepp 3. I bought it in the first year of secondary school. So, I met a whole new group of friends, and one of them had two older brothers, and they used to have a lot of Led Zeppelin. And so this is the first Led Zeppelin album that I heard, and I remember buying a second-hand copy of this album. And a point I made during the video, and I kind of only realised it when I was making it, is I only ever really played side one of this album. Now, it happens to have three of some of my most favourite Led Zeppelin songs on side one, in Immigrant Song, Celebration Day, and A Brilliant Since I've Been Loving You. And yes, Tangerine is on side two, and that's a great song, but I can't tell you much about side two if I'm honest, but I know side one kind of note for note. Now, that's because I played side one, and maybe by that time, I just didn't want to listen to side two. I think this album is front loaded as well. So any album that's got Black Dog, Rock and Roll and Stairway to Heaven on side one's got to be front loaded, doesn't it? Now, yes, there's some decent songs on side two. Obviously When the Levee Breaks is on side two, but I very rarely played side two. I only really ever played side one. This album, I couldn't tell you what side two sounds like. Side one sounds like The Exorcist for me, but maybe by the end of side one, I didn't want to listen to anything more. But this is a game of two halves for me. The next album I bought in '87, and it's definitely a game of two halves. So this is a band that I like their first two albums. I saw them a couple of times live. They were part of the new wave of British heavy metal, and then denied that, and then produced this overproduced album, which at the time I quite liked, but I very rarely play it now, and that's Def Leppard's Hysteria. So this for me is a very front-loaded album. All of side one are singles. So you've got Women, Rocket, Animal, Love Bites, Pour Some Sugar on Me, Armageddon It. That for me is a very, very front-loaded album. Now, in the kind of world of CD and streaming, I noticed that lots of albums that come out now are very front-loaded because people generally only listen to the first few. So I kind of get potentially why you might have sequenced it like that. But in '87, this has got two sides of vinyl, and one side I think is considerably stronger, and I very rarely played side two. I felt the same about this album, similar kind of era. Joshua Tree. Now, this was produced by Steve Lillywhite, whose wife was Kirsty MacColl, and apparently she was responsible for the sequencing of this album. And for me, this is very front-loaded. So, Where the Streets Have No Name, I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For, With or Without You, Bullet the Blue Sky, Running to Stand Still. Some really decent songs on side one. On side two, I didn't really know side two. Now, I'm not a massive U2 fan. I did a video recently where bands I can't connect with. I didn't mention this band, but a lot of people did in the comments. And side two, I can't really tell you much about it. Side one, maybe it's because they are the singles, possibly, and they're the well-known songs. But I remember when I bought this, I very, very rarely got to play side two. I think this album is quite front-loaded as well. A good album, and it has got some good songs on side two. Territorial Pissings, Stay Away, On a Plane. I do like those songs, but maybe by the end of side one you're kind of bludgeoned and you don't need side two. Smells Like Teen Spirit, In Bloom, Come As You Are, Breed, Lithium, Polly. It's a tremendous side of vinyl. That's an absolutely brilliant side, and maybe you've had enough by that time, or is it just a front-loaded album? Of a similar era, I feel the same about this. I haven't got it on vinyl, and so I wonder if you did have it on vinyl, whether or not you played side two very much, because side one has got Once, Even Flow, Alive, which I think is just an absolute rock classic. It's brilliant. Why Go, Black, Jeremy. I mean, that's some of their best songs they ever recorded, all on side one of one album. I like this band. I know a lot of people don't, but I really like this band, Journey. I think they produce some really, really good stuff. And this has got one side that is very different to the other side. Now, the first side, Separate Ways, Send 'Em a Love, Chain Reaction, After the Fall, Faithfully, is a really good side of vinyl. If you like AOR, if you don't, then you won't like it. But it's a really good side of vinyl. The first side on side two, the first track on side two is The Edge of the Blade, which is one of my favourite, if not my favourite Journey song. It's a really heavy song, but after that it just falls off a cliff. Troubled Child, Back Talk, Rubicon, Frontiers, really grim. Actually, the quality just nosedives after Edge of the Blade. So that for me is a very front-loaded album. I always felt the same about this album. You know, for me, the side one is the A sides and side two are the B sides. You know, so we've got Gone Hollywood, Logical Song, Goodbye Stranger, Breakfast in America, Oh Darling. You know, that for me is considerably better than side two. I felt a little bit like that about this album as well, and lots of people will be gasping in horror, and I'm sure I've got Jam fans right at this moment tapping away on their keyboard. You know, Man in the Corner Shop is a good song, but side one, Pretty Green, Monday, But I'm Different Now, Set the House Ablaze, which I love. Start, that's Entertainment. That's a front-loaded album, isn't it? I think that's a tremendous first side, and it's a good second side, but I very rarely played the second side. This is an album that I very rarely played the second side. This is an album that I bought in '77. This, though, the copy I'm about to show is an '81 copy that I bought when I was at uni because my '77 copy just got absolutely destroyed. And this isn't in much better condition, if I'm honest. But side one is absolutely stellar. Side two, can't really remember it very much, if I'm honest. Career Opportunities, Cheat, Protex Blue. Not even sure how those second two go. 48 Hours, Garageland, Police and Thieves, I do remember. But side one, Janie Jones, tremendous. Remote Control, brilliant. I'm So Bored with the USA, one of their best songs for me. White Riot, love it. Hate and War, What's My Name, Did I, London's Burning. It's a brilliant side of vinyl. Side two? Not sure. Front-loaded album for me. Back in 1978, I bought a single by a band that had a B-side that I think just changed the way that people played guitar. That was Van Halen's Running with the Devil. The B-side was Eruption. I bought their album, it must have been in '79. It was certainly when I was in the 5th year at school. And that's year 11 to you young people. And it's their first album. I think this is a very front-loaded album. Now, annoyingly, Van Halen, when they put the album tracks on, they don't say what's on side one and side two. You have to look at the label. But, you know, I'm the One is on side one. What else is on side one? Running with the Devil, Eruption, Ain't Talking About Love, You Really Got Me. It's a brilliant side of vinyl. Yes, I did play side two, but if I were to log it, it's probably... 4 times, 5 times more playing side one than side two. Yeah, there's some good songs on side two. I like Little Dreamer. I like Ice Cream Man. A lot of people don't, but there are some good songs. But it doesn't match side one. And I feel the same about these two albums by them as well. This one has got Mean Street. It's got Sinner's Swing, Unchained, for example, on side one. That's some of their best songs on there. This one annoyingly doesn't have the tracks again in order, and The Cradle Will Rock, Romeo Delight, Falls, Everybody Wants Some. That's all on side one. That's the best songs on this album. Very, very front loaded. Now, those albums were produced by Ted Templeman, who also produced the first Montrose album in 1973 with a very, very young Sammy Hagar. Obviously went on to play with Van Halen. This, for me, is a very front-loaded album because if you would say, oh, what's the absolute classics on this album? Well, I would say Rock the Nation, Bad Motor Scooter, Space Station Number 5. That's the first 3 songs, and there's only 4 songs on each side. That's a very front-loaded album. It's a great album, and I like side 2, but side 1 definitely is the stronger side. I think as a kid, I very rarely got to side 2 of this album. Maybe by the time I finished side 1, I'd kind of had enough, if you like. But side 2, Passage to Bangkok's okay, yeah. Tears is kind of nice ballady sort of thing. Something for Nothing's okay. But side 1 is just brilliant. It's a classic. And I very rarely got to side 2. This next album is one of the classic debuts. I think it's a brilliant album, absolutely brilliant. And I think in side 1, we have one of the most perfect sides of vinyl in rock music ever recorded. More Than a Feeling, Peace of Mind, Foreplay, Long Time. It doesn't get much better than that for me. It's absolutely brilliant. Side 2 is okay. There's some really good songs on it. I love Smoking. I love Something About You, Rock and Roll Band. I like all those songs. I like them a lot. But side 1, wow. That's a front-loaded album, undoubtedly. This is a front-loaded album. You know, you've the first 3 songs on side. There's 3 songs on side 1, and they're really funky. Just remind me of the names of them. Born Under Punches, Cross-Eyed and Painless, The Great Curve. Great funky songs. You turn over, you get Once in a Lifetime, and then the quality for me falls off a cliff. It's just grim after that. It's a good, you know, it starts off so well. It's a really, really front-loaded album, Remaining Light by Talking Heads. I think to some extent that'll probably send Genesis fans into absolute turmoil. But Dancing with the Moonlit Night, I Know What I Like in Your Wardrobe, the fifth, three of their best songs for me. Definitely the three best songs on this album. And that's just the first three songs on the album. So when I've listened to side one, I very rarely got to side two. Lesser so maybe with this album. You know, I'm not a massive Dire Straits fan, but I think Telegraph Road and Private Investigations are two of their best songs, and they're both on side one. And that's the only songs on side one. That's a very front-loaded album. And the final one is the debut from the B-52s. It's a great album. Side one is tremendous. Planet Claire, 52 Girls, Dancers Mess Around, and it finishes with Rock Lobster. Now you turn over, you get Lava. That's a decent song. But then after that, I think it really fizzles out. So there you go. There's some albums that I think are very front-loaded, that I very rarely play side two, that I think possibly lose a little bit of steam, and all the good stuff is on side one. Tell me what you think. What are the albums you think that fizzle out, that lose steam, that you rarely play side two? Thanks for watching. I'm sure I'll be back sometime with another video. Cheers.